Chapter 1145, y'all. 1145 with easily the best cover photo I've ever seen. Honest to God, the fact that it's them watching their anime returning because we got the big return to Egghead. Tell me this isn't like some of the most like just epic, amazing, most beautiful you've ever seen. What a week for One Piece, guys. Getting 2 back-to-back new episodes, and it's clean as all hell. And then now we still get another chapter. I would not have been surprised if we like somehow went on a like little chapter break while these episodes dropped. Like I was kind of expecting that, and the fact that we haven't, lovely. We might have a chapter break after this. Let me check. Yep. So we do not have a chapter next week. It's going to be 2 weeks till we have another chapter, unfortunately. But dude, guys, we're eating because it's not like we're missing out on content. We're going to have another episode next week. And yeah, this is officially just on the schedule now, us watching One Piece together and then reading it together, guys. We're thriving. So let's get into it, guys. Chapter 1145. It is all but confirmed, guys. The theory is all but confirmed now. We've been talking about this for how many chapters now, guys? How many chapters have we been talking about Gunko finding a way to take Colin? And I said it last week, like with Colin confirmed entering the fray, that's gonna do it. And there it is, guys. There it is. And look, we got Jinbei, Brook, Nami, and Usopp on here. How are they gonna stop Gunko, dude? I don't got him doing it. Jinbei and Brook might be able to do it. With Nami kind of doing casual backup. But I think Gunko's going to be smart enough to get in and then get out. I think Gunko, I would hope, is like smart enough to not try to take absolutely everyone on at once. Just literally grab Colin and fly away because we know Gunko can do that. Gunko needs some pants. Bro, you're not wrong, man. It's crazy. We do need to find Gunko some pants. Not gonna lie, while it works with our theories, I feel like this is also the perfect time for Nami and Zeus to really pop off. Dude, I hope it is. But... And call me a hater, but I just do not have faith in this group of the Straw Hats like that. Hear me out. Let me explain why. It's not that I simply think these Straw Hats aren't enough to do something, but they're dealing with a child as well, and Colin is going to make the wrong decisions in this moment because he's an inexperienced fighter. All the Straw Hats understand who needs to play their part and where, generally speaking, so they would do a good job of forming a pretty good wall against this. But you can imagine that Colin, being an inexperienced warrior, could potentially just straight up panic and do the wrong thing here, and that will create an opening for Gunko to just snag Colin and GTFO. And I think that's the real thing. This is going to be a snatch and grab thing. And they don't have a good way to actually chase Gunko once Gunko flies off with Colin. That's like the real thing that I'm kind of looking at right now. Granted, we do have Jinbei on this ship. He is a helmsman, so he very well could just take the wheel and start following her with the ship, in theory. But I don't know, dude. I don't think this is going to be a very long fight. I really think it's going to be a snatch and grab. But this is a beautiful opportunity for them to show us what the lesser tier of the crew can do. Nami's got Zeus on our side too, but we need a solid Zeus bolt to take out Gunko. Dude, I don't know if that'd be enough to take Gunko out or not. I'm not sure. And I really don't know. Maybe I'm gassing Gunko up a little too much because like Gunko's got to be on the lower tier of strength as far as these Holy Knights are concerned. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'm just like underscaling Zeus because like Zeus just doesn't seem that strong to me. But maybe that's just on me. Like maybe I don't have enough faith in my people, and I really should, go back and look at all of Zeus's feats and stuff. What if it ends up like Big Mom separating the Straw Hats from Dressrosa type situation with Jinbei taking the helm and pursuing Gunko if she takes Colin? Dude, that could be it. It genuinely could be something like this group of the Straw Hats starts following Gunko and them to Marie Joie, and then the other Straw Hats are still stuck on Elbaf. But granted, they're not stuck because they have the Mary as well. So actually, that kind of works, dude. I could kind of see that, and Oda loves splitting up the Straw Hats. I mean, we will never get a full Straw Hat gang like arc. It just doesn't happen. I want it to, but damn, it just doesn't. I actually love that concept though, and it makes a lot of sense. Send this group to Marie Joie, leave the monster trio to fight with Dory, Bragi, and Gabon. Dude, exactly. And this might also split up the Holy Knights, right? So like Gunko might just go to Marie Joie like by themselves with Colin, and the other 2 Holy Knights might stay here and fight the monster trio. Like the very first page of this is nuts. We get an introduction to another homie that still exists on Elbaf, which is a crazy concept that I never considered, but I love to see is actually a thing. Of like the remnants of Big Mom and Mother Carmel as well, obviously, are all over Elbaf, and it makes sense since she spent so much time there anyway. It's really, really cool that we're getting a direct, like, connection to it. And also, like, and you guys let me know what you think of this in the chat, because I've seen some back and forth, like, conversation about it. But, you know, a lot of people make the argument that, like, Big Mom is confirmed not dead because the homies still exist. But do you guys think that homies can persist after her death? Or, like, is it something that, like, her power would cut off? Or is it something that once she's put the souls into them, she's put the souls into them? Like, they're not, like, directly feeding off of her power. I'm not really sure. Next up, we get a dual Sanji and Zoro attack, which is just so crazy. Amare de l'air assault, which apparently translates to something along the lines of, like, French Air Force assault. I might be a little bit wrong on that, but then, like, next up, it's really, really funny seeing, like, the way Luffy is treating, like, Loki, because Luffy really does seem to care about Loki, like, struggling, but at the same time, he's just such a violent person, or, like, an aggressive person, so he's hurting him the whole time. He's like, bro, you gotta eat, because you gotta get better, because we gotta talk about Shanks. Like, Luffy is just caught up on, like, bro, like, you just need to get better, and we need to have these conversations, which I love. And this episode really did just feel like it was a lot of callbacks to, like, pre-time skip Straw Hat's energy, which I really do like a lot. But we do get a little bit of information, not too much, but Loki does start talking, and unfortunately Luffy just keeps him way too busy for us to actually get some real info until we get this little bit of a flashback, which is super, super interesting, because especially the way they have Harden looking at it, like, wait, are you really about to say this? Like, are you going to talk about the person you looked up to? And the big going theory, I guess, is this being Rox, which does make a lot of sense, but it's absolutely crazy. Like, Rox is just dunking on him. He's like, bro, I don't want a freaking kid, you know, hanging out with me. Loki has the I was born in the wrong era complex, which really does seem incredibly fitting for him. He wanted to stand by him. We even get a little Whitebeard silhouette here, which is just kind of crazy, which I guess this is back when Whitebeard was on Rox's crew. I guess would be the timeline for this. Crazy. Also, silhouettes still happening this late in the story are low-key starting to bother you. Just shows, like, show us these characters already. On God, dude. Like, how many more silhouettes are we gonna get? Like, we should just be able to see what these guys look like. Why would we keep Rox shadowed at this point? Like he's a well-known character for all intents and purposes. The silhouettes have always bothered you, but what we've noticed is that they may be because Oda hasn't exactly chosen how they will look. I mean, that's without a doubt. The silhouettes almost never turn out to look like the character. Loki was not close. The original Kaido was not close. A panel like him arguing with Newgate would have been a great reveal of how Rox looks. Exactly. And that was, like, you know, back in the past. So Rox could have ended up looking a little different by the end. But yeah, like, we're still waiting for a man with a burn scar. We're still waiting for a dude with an eye patch. We'll know, like, we're at the end of the game when that happens, whatever. And then Rox, seemingly, assuming this is Rox, is still being silhouetted. Like, why the hell have we not seen him yet? Like, it's crazy. But this is all alleged. We have no confirmations because, yet again, it's silhouettes. But, you know, we gonna see. We gonna see. We do see Gabon doing some work here. These things seem to be a problem, but not that much of a problem. It seems like the majority of our top tiers can one-shot all these things, so really, really not that big of a deal. But they're just enough to keep everyone really, really busy, which, again, is leading to my point that I am holding on to with the way this chapter ended, of Gabon being too busy to deal with whatever Colin has going on. From there, we have the firefighters doing their thing, which unfortunately just were not able to do their thing whatsoever. Like, it's kind of rough when the firefighters aren't able to stop these fires. Apparently, the fires are just absolutely massive. I keep forgetting that, you know, we're in Elbaf. So when you see these giants on the screen looking like, you know, regular sized people, they're not even remotely. So the things that are bigger than them are just obnoxiously massive. Like, seeing this in the anime is going to be so crazy, getting to really, like, appreciate the size of all of this stuff, dude. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. Very valid. Also, look beneath the speech bubble. There's Loki has a sword stabbed in his ribs. But yeah, dude, so we have the firefighters pull up and they're failing, dude. They're just outright failing, which is kind of crazy. Like, I understand that these are, like, some of the most, like, biggest flames in the game, but it sucks that the firefighters just can't do about this. It shows just how dangerous fire really is to Elbaf, honest to God, because without Jinbei, a fishman, being there with his ability to, like, use water and stuff like that, they would have been absolutely screwed. Thank God Jinbei, from the sky, too. He does it from the ship, doesn't even get off the ship, just sends them some love real quick, saves the kids, at least from that particular part of peril. Another thing is just, like, Gunko being as absolutely savage as she can be. Like, what's gonna happen? They'll wake up from the heat, wail and cry for their parents, and then can be consumed by flames and burned into bones, I assume. And you have Sommers just maniacally laughing and losing his mind, dude. Absolutely demonic stuff, guys. Like, these guys are freaking demons. But then as I foretold, man, and again, to y'all's point, it doesn't confirm anything just yet, but Gunko pulls up on the ship with Colin. We do have Jinbei and Brooke, who are pretty solid fighters, and then Nami with Zeus, which does give her, the ability to fight and stand up here. But I really think Gunko's just going to grab and go, guys. I'm just pretty convinced on that. But that's the whole chapter. Those are the initial takeaways. Now we cook. So Zen has been heavy on the theory of Gunko being related to Ginny in some capacity, aka Jewelry Bonnie's mom, which could infer that Gunko is potentially a sister of Bonnie, or maybe a clone of Ginny. There's a couple different versions of this. So Zen says, going into this, you have evidence for your Gunko being Ginny's clone theory, and found some interesting info about Kuma and the Buccaneer people. Starting with Kuma, the first image with Saturn could be evidence for your theory that the Buccaneer people were the slaves in the First World. Buccaneers revolting with Nika could have been that grave crime against the world. It's also mentioned that the Buccaneer people have giant blood, which makes you think, what if Hiriden has Buccaneer blood? Oh my lord. And that's why Loki deems Hiriden's blood as filthy. That is a banger of a theory, point right there. I love that. Ginny's last words to Kuma are, "I'll always, always love you," which leads me to think that if Gunko gets the opportunity to see Kuma/Bonnie, if that will be enough to remind Gunko of Kuma and her past family. Another thing that I found interesting is that baby Bonnie looks like baby Shanks with the same hairstyle and face shape, which is, at the very least to you, seems like Ginny and Shamrock had Bonnie before Ginny died from the Sapphire Scale, Saturn's experiment with Bonnie, which gave her the age powers. First, let's click this first one that you were talking about, just for the reference. Kuma, you mean? He was born into a slave caste, the descendants of a clan that once committed a grave crime against the world, the last survivor of the extinct Buccaneer people. Good reference there with that scene and that moment with Kuma. I think you're absolutely cooking on the Buccaneer side for this. All right, which gave her the age powers. Could have been an experiment similar to what Judge did to Sanji and his siblings, maybe even the beginning of Vegapunk's green blood experiments. So if Gunko is really Ginny's clone, then you believe that Gunko encountering Kuma and Bonnie could be enough to awaken that subtle feeling of revolution deep down inside. Love that, dude. If that's the case, I really do think that's where this is going to go. Gunko and Shamrock could be married if Shamrock just wanted a replacement wife post Ginny's death. You didn't get a screenshot of it, though. There's a panel where Saturn mentions that Ginny was the 8th wife of some fellow at the Holy Land. The very least, we know that Ginny was married to a celestial dragon, which could be why Gunko isn't considered a celestial either, since she comes from non-celestial blood. I like this theory a lot, Zen. You're definitely doing a much better job of convincing me than a lot of the people on TikTok have of the clone theory. I think my aversion to the clone theory is just like, cloning feels like a cop-out, but at the same time, Vegapunk has literally cloned himself 6 times. We now have clones of the warlords. So cloning is just very much a thing within the higher ups of the government. So I do think this is super highly possible, and the connections are getting a lot thicker at this point. You know what I'm saying? I love your Buccaneer part of the theory, period, with or without Gunko's specific connection to it all. I'm still kind of leaning towards Gunko is a child, just like someone who has been captured by them, just like they're doing. Because I think it's a good parallel that Gunko is here stealing children, and she too was likely a child that was stolen in this capacity, and then indoctrinated into the whole, Holy Knights vibe. I don't know why that just stands so strong to me, but I just really, that feels like a strong parallel in the type of parallels that Oda likes to draw with these characters, you know? In chapter 1134, I totally forgot that Lilith has a perfect clone of the original Dr. Vegapunk with her. Yes, that's a good point. With her, without a lab, she can't safely extract him, which she just got the lab that she'll safely be able to do that from the last chapter that's 3,000 millennia old. What if this is why we find Lilith in the old lab with Frankie? What if she's using that lab to extract Vegapunk's clone? With the Vegapunk clone extracted, Kuma can can regain his memories and become whole again. Oh my god. You wonder if Vegapunk would be able to help Gunko if the clone theory ends up being true, and we see Gunko turn on Shamrock and the other Holy Knights to ally with Kuma and Bonnie. It's been common for the past few arcs to have an antagonist traitor and a protagonist traitor. You're absolutely right. For example, Dendrio and Kanjuro in Wano. Dendrio was the traitor towards Orochi, and Kanjuro was the traitor towards the Scabbards and Momo and York. And Momo or York towards the Vegapunks and Stussy towards CP0. Dude, brilliant connections. I also love how Saul reveals that every single book from Ohara was recovered, meaning that the Buster Call, while destructive, failed in the end to achieve its goal of destroying Ohara's knowledge. Dude, yes. Reading through more of Elbaf now, I'm starting to think that Gunko fears Nika because she enjoys the benefits from the Celestial Dragon's lifestyle. I fully agree with that. And if she is a clone of Jinny, Nika's presence could awaken that part of Jinny that could pull Gunko away from the Celestial Dragons. You're also curious as to why Gunko likes Brook's song New World, as it is a song about Luffy and his journey to become Pirate King. I think she has that will for adventure in her, dude. I mean, like, honest to God, like she has that. That is brilliant, Zen. I think you really, really cooked in this back half. And you're doing such a good job of convincing me of this clone theory. That's starting to work a little bit too well. So shit, dude, I might be changing my mind. I really might be changing my mind. The only thing you don't like so far is your awakened memory bit. If she's a clone, like we've talked about, then she is her own person with her own memories. Oh, that's a good point, dude. So, like, the awakened memory might not happen simply for the fact of she's a clone. She never had those memories. But that could be the other thing. Maybe then in that capacity, Gunko's not a clone, but is Jinny, but her mind has been wiped, or they've done some kind of, like, interesting thing on that particular thing. Yo, you didn't even think about Gunko being Jinny straight up. Kuma could have been fed false info that Jinny actually died. Maybe Jinny was just brainwashed and turned into a soldier by the Holy Knights. Exactly, dude. Exactly. Like, I know he technically buried her and stuff like that, but dude, we have seen so many times that either it could be straight up Jinny, they could have gone back to the gravesite, dug her body up, and just implanted like a new like personality in there. Like, there's a lot of different types of like options that aren't inherently just the straight up clone theory, but still connect it to Jinny, you know? Oh yeah, she was on the phone, wasn't she? Or maybe, was it a phone or like through a letter or something? I don't know. I feel like we saw a moment where like Kuma was at her grave. I think that's like the concept that I'm pulling on, but y'all let me know. If it was Jinny, she should look much older. See, that's a good point too, though. Gunko does not look as old as Jinny looked. That's a really good point, Spyro. Which, in that capacity, then I could see Gunko potentially being the child of Shamrock for sure. Like, I could see us leaning more towards that angle than her being Jinny specifically, and that would still tie into Jinny's her mother. But yeah, I think I like that bit a little bit more than the outright Jinny clone. That's a really good point, Spyro. After Bonnie healed from the Sapphire Scales, the government could have used that to cure Jinny's Sapphire Scale. She also told Kuma to not try to find her. I mean, that is true. That is very, very true. And her telling Kuma not to find her definitely implies that she was stuck with the government anyway, so she knew that would probably like catch Kuma up. So that's probably why. She was on the phone, and Kuma Pa traveled back to the island as fast as he could, but he couldn't make it in time to see her. Got you. Let's see. This is a really fun one. I would love to read from my boy Ill Twisted, aka Kaiba Corp. Shout out hearing Kaiba Corp's question in That One Piece Talk podcast, their most recent one. I see you hanging out in their streams, bro. I think it's really cool when I see like our community members and other people's streams. That's awesome. But a theory of the will of D. Your theory is that the will of D is the will of the devil, or in other words, the devil's own luck, which I just love this little connection. Here is the descriptor. In societies where the virtuous and selfless are expected to have some sort of divine approval, those benefiting from more self-serving traits might be seen to have an unnatural amount of luck, both in their achievements but also in their escaping retribution. Overly lucky people were believed to have made a pact with the devil so that they can have the devil's own luck, or in other words, the devil traded them his luck for their soul. Here's Garp attributing Roger's success to his boldness and lucky streak. Despite living that reckless life, he got lucky and survived. In the end, he was branded King of the Pirates. Here's Basil Hawkins, known for his ability to predict the future possibilities, but he notes oddly that Luffy never has a guaranteed failure rate. How odd. What's wrong, Captain Hawkins? No matter what I do, Straw Hat Luffy's survival rate won't go to 0, which He's always going to win. That's our main character energy right there. If there was a character Oda would pick to foreshadow and give insight into what the will of D is, it's Dofi. Here he is on his way to Punk Hazard, and he's referring to Luffy and arguably Law. Although at that point you don't think we knew he was a D yet. He goes, looks like you've got the devil's own luck, kids, which is a really, really good point. You might think, yeah, but what about Ace? He wasn't really that lucky given what happened, but he really was until he clashed with another D, Blackbeard. This would explain why the people who are good and evil, like Blackbeard and Luffy, both have D, and why Imu sees both of them as direct enemies of gods. Interesting choice of words since it's called the Devil's Luck. As celestial dragons seek to control, and having the D means you are uncontrollable, dude. So much fun. I just thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm not sitting here saying that it's a guaranteed, like, confirmed theory or not, but it's just such a banger of a theory, dude. And it just all comes together really, really well with the context of these things. To be honest, like the thing I'm just most excited about is the fact that Gunko has now officially kind of given up on dealing with those kids. I really think they are gonna, like, kind of completely give up on these kids and just start focusing on the fight and getting out. You know, kind of going back to what Jet said of, like, Sommers just releasing his abilities so he can focus more heavily. It really might be, like, fight time. Like, Gunko's going to snag Colin, and Sommers and Killingham might really just enter the fray now. That's about all we have for chapter 1145. Thank you guys so much for theory crafting with us. Of course, drop in the comments any theories you guys have or anything you're cooking up. We've got a Discord in the bio where we have theory crafting sections where the homies are cooking up these theories all day long, every single day. We do streams every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to watch now the new episodes of One Piece and read the new chapters and theory craft together. And lastly, if you want a full uncut version of this stream, it will always be uploaded on my Patreon the following day. Everything is in the bio. Go check it out, guys, and I will see y'all next week. Tell the people you love them, touch some grass, drink some water. We'll see you next time.